At the beginning of each season, we get a lot of questions in our support team around using last year's stats versus this year's stats. In FastScout, you have the option to use either or both, depending on what you as a coaching staff feels important to show on your scouting report. So we're going to go through kind of the different factors that determine what season stats show up in your scouting report here. So the first thing to note, first thing to always make sure you do is download the latest stats database from our servers. This happens automatically when you open FastScout each time. However, if you do need to manually do it, just click the stats menu on the top, then download latest stats database and select your league. When you do, it will prompt you and you'll see across the top. It usually goes very quickly as it downloads that database. It usually only takes a few seconds. And that'll make sure any new box scores, rosters, anything like that is available on your computer. Whenever you create a new scout, you have a field called Stat Season. So this should reflect the primary season that you want to pull stats from. Again, as we'll show in a bit, even if you want to pull last year and this year's stats, you can totally do that. However, when you first create the scout, you'll want to select the primary season where most statistics will be pulling from. We are currently starting the 17-18 season, so I would choose that if I want current season stats, or I can choose last year, 16-17 in this case, if I want last season stats. If you've already created your scout and it's listed on the left-hand side here, you can always double-click on the scout to pull up your Edit Scout window and adjust that stat season if needed. The next thing that's going to determine what stats pull into your scouting report are the defaults that you have set for each topic. If you're ever not sure what the defaults are that's set, there's actually a nice little trick that's an easy way to find out. In this example, I have a topic called best three-point shooters, showing some stats on the three-pointers for the team I have selected. Anywhere you see text highlighted in gray, like we see all over this table, that gray text means it's pulling from our stats database versus me typing it out manually. If I click on any of that gray text, I get a little preview here about what it's pulling exactly. So in this case, it's pulling the player's three-point made per attempts. And as you see, it says current league, current team, and most importantly, current season. Since I selected 2016-2017 as the stat season for this scout, that is the current season it's pulling from. So if I change that to 17-18, I would see 17-18 stats for this player instead. To show you a couple other examples, we'll go to our personnel topic. So right now in my personnel topic, again, if I click on any of these areas, I'll see that it's pulling from the current season. So players that I'm seeing no stats for, most likely either freshmen or transfers, maybe set out last year. If I select another player, I'm seeing statistics. Again, if I click, I know it's pulling from current season. So maybe what I want to do in this case is actually see both. Maybe I want to see last season statistics and this season statistics if we're a few games into the new year. I can do that really easily just by editing the defaults for my topic. What I'm going to do is insert a new row of statistics below my current row, copy and paste the statistics from row 1 into row 2. And again, if I'm ever a little unsure, just clicking on the gray text will tell me where that info is pulling from exactly. Right now I have the same exact statistics showing on row 1 and row 2. Maybe I want the top to actually show 17-18 stats, which is this season, and the bottom to show 16-17, which is last season. I could just type those headers out so it's clear. And now in the bottom row, if I want to kind of hard code that to be last season statistics, I can highlight it, right-click, and choose Revise Splits for Row, which is going to pull up our split window where we can adjust a whole host of different splits, including the season, which again, current season is going to reflect whatever stat season we assign the scout. However, if I always wanted to show a certain season, like 16-17 stats, I can select that. This is also the place where you would do different types of splits, like last 5 games, conference games, and any other split that's available. In this case, I'll hit Apply, and then OK. So now as long as my scout is set to pull 17-18 stats as the current season, I'm just going to update all stats quickly so that everything's showing correctly. What I'll see is a row of 17-18 stats and a row of 16-17 stats for each player. And again, when I click on the gray text, I get that same preview. The top row is pulling from the current season. Again, whatever I have set as the stat season for my scout equates to current season. And the row below, if I click on it, it actually doesn't say current season. You can see it's kind of hard-coded to pull 16-17 stats. So as I scroll through, I'll see players' stats from this year and last year as needed. One thing I'll point out as we're here, since this also comes out up a lot, and seems to be the case for the team I have selected here, is transfers. This kid might have actually played last year, but not for this team. So as you can see, it's trying to pull his stats for Bethune-Cookman in this case. However, if this player did transfer and played for another school last year, I can highlight that specific row of stats. Again, revise splits for the row by right-clicking, and just adjust the team to whichever team they played on last year, and that will pull in their stats for that year. So that's how you can, one at a time, account for those transfers early in the season if you want to pull their stats from their old team. So those are just some quick tips about how to make sure that you're pulling in the stats for the correct season. Again, varies by coach and team whether they want to pull in stats early in the year for this season, last season, or both. As you can see, for each topic in your report, you really have full control over which stats are pulling in. And again, if you're ever a little unsure, clicking on that gray text will give you that preview to let you know where your stats are pulling from. And if you do ever need to make any modifications, always try to make them at the default level so it will apply to both the scout you're working on and to all future scouts.